Now, the recording doesn't always take, unfortunately. Sometimes there's problems with audio. So I would say about half the time it works and half the time it doesn't. So let's just hope that it does. And that way I can put this up on YouTube and it can be something that you guys can all review. So basically, we're going to start by talking about Final Draft and how to use Final Draft once you've downloaded it. And if you have any additional questions, we're going to talk a little bit about Story. You're certainly welcome to, if you're in front of a computer, type into the chat window and pose any questions that you feel are sort of burning questions or any questions that you might have. So just type into the chat window if you have any questions as we go, and I'll certainly be able to answer them for you. Okay, so I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. So that means that you're going to see exactly what's on my computer screen. So I am now sharing my screen, so you should see what I have on my screen, on my desktop. So I'm going to start by opening up Final Draft. I'm going to click on Final Draft here, go up to File, and I'm going to click first New from Stationery. And even though we're pretty much only going to be using the screenplay template in this class, you're certainly welcome to explore the other templates. I actually just used the play template, the stage play template, for something that I just wrote a couple of days ago. So you have different scripts here, different templates, screenplay, stage play, 1 hour drama, so on and so forth. Text documents here, TV templates. You also have graphic novels templates here for those of you who are going to be writing graphic novels, if there are any of you. But I'm going to go up here to New, and it should bring me to what I was last working on. I think, what is this? I don't know if this is a new play or a new, I'm guessing this is a new screenplay. Although now I can't get out of this document. There we go, untitled screenplay. Okay, so yeah, it just defaults to a new screenplay. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so now if you look, let me scroll here. Oh, I can't, for some reason. No, it's not cooperating with me tonight. Let's see. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Nope. Okay, this is going to be a fun night. All right, we're going to make this work. Now I can't find the top of the damn document. Let's close that. Try again. There we go. Okay, so you can't really see it, but down at the bottom of the document, it tells you which element you're working on. Man, I wish I could shrink this. Okay, so we're going to begin by, I'm going to bring up a Word document here also so that I can type notes that I can give to you as we go. But the first thing is that we need to establish the location of wherever our scene is. And so you're going to notice here that I'm going to type interior, I for interior, and it brings up this little smart type menu. There are three different sort of, well, actually two different places for locations that you can categorize them as interior or exterior. You either have an interior location or an exterior location. So I would type int period for interior or ext period for exterior. Okay, so let's type that in our notes here, int period or ext period. Okay, so let's call it exterior. I'm going to go ahead and write a script for you here, just sort of off the top of my head. Exterior theater day. Okay, now notice all I did actually when I typed my keyboard, on the keyboard, all I did was type theater dash D, and then the smart type menu came up for day. So I'm going to hit enter or return, and that gives me what we call a slug line. So this line here, this location line, is what's known as a slug line. Okay, so let's format our notes here. Location lines are known as slug lines. Okay, and they begin with either interior or exterior, and they will always be the either interior or exterior, then the location and then the time of day. Now, even within the location, let's say that this theater is in New York on Broadway, I might say exterior Minskoff, because that's the name of a Broadway theater, Minskoff Theater, comma, New York, comma, New York. So what I've done here is I have the very specific location of the Minskoff Theater and then the more general location after it of New York, New York, if it's important to designate where this is taking place. If it's just some random theater, then it does not matter. Okay, so it could be interior theater or exterior theater, wherever. Okay, so let's just call it generic exterior theater. It doesn't matter where the location is. So I'm going to hit enter, and you can't see, but at the bottom of the screen, it actually it tells us that this is an action line. Okay, so if I hit the return key, all of the elements come up, and A for action is highlighted. That means that this is going to be a description or an action line. Okay, so when you're introducing a character for the very first time, you want to make sure that the character's name is in all caps in the description. So in descriptions, the very first time the character is introduced, his or hers or its name is in all caps. Only in the descriptions, not in the dialogue. Just in the descriptions and only that very first time. So I'm going to use myself as a character. So Alan 30s in parentheses, clad in a pair of slacks and a button-down shirt with a tie. Looks at his watch and taps his foot. Okay, so here's what I've done here. I've introduced the character. I've described very briefly what the character looks like, what he's wearing, to give an impression of who this person is. So Alan is in his 30s. If race were important, you might indicate what the race is or the ethnicity, if it's important. If he spoke with a very heavy accent, you might put that he speaks with a heavy accent here. But very short and sweet descriptions. You don't want to overdo it. The difference between writing for entertainment industry as opposed to writing a work of literature or even a piece of flash fiction like you just wrote is you have to be very, very efficient with your descriptions. The very long, flowery, literary, Nobel Prize winning descriptions do not apply in screenplays. So you want to cut those out as much as possible. So brief description of what he's wearing, and you want to give the character a defining action. This lets us know something about the character. So by looking at his watch and tapping his foot, we know that he is waiting for somebody. Okay, he doesn't even need to say anything, and we know that about this person. Okay, so the behavior, the description of the behavior gives us a clue about who this character is. Okay, maybe he's sipping a cup of coffee, maybe he trips over something. That gives us an indication of who he is. If he's listening to something on his iPod, that could be something also. Okay, so he's outside of a theater. Obviously, someone is running late. Okay, we'll say he looks around. Okay. Kevin, we'll say 20s, clad in ripped jeans and a tank top, hurries up to the box office. Okay, so here we have a different description. He's in ripped jeans and a tank top, and he's hurrying over to the box office. So that lets us believe that A, he's running late, and B, he doesn't really care about what he's looking like. He's going to see probably a play, and he's not dressed appropriately, whereas Alan is. He's wearing slacks and a button-down shirt with a tie. Okay, so there we have an immediate contrast between characters. Okay, one person is dressed appropriately, one person is not. Okay, so notice nobody has even said anything yet at this point. Okay, So Alan rolls his eyes. Now notice that because I've already introduced Alan the first time, his name is not going to be in all caps again. It's just that very first time and only in the description. Okay. Kevin walks over. Okay, and some people like try to really spice up the verbs. Like walks is kind of like doesn't really say anything, but you could say he limps over or something a little bit more descriptive. But we'll use walks for now. Now I want to change this to character, so I'm going to hit the Enter key. Brings up my Elements menu. Get to character. Now I'm not even holding down a Shift key for this because it automatically knows that this Final Draft automatically formats it as this needs to be capitalized. I'm going to hit Enter again. And instead of the menu popping up, it just brings me automatically to where the dialogue is going to be, because after the character name always comes the dialogue. Okay, so Alan says 30 minutes. The play starts in 5. That indicates that Alan's been waiting for 30 minutes. Play starts in 5. So now I'm going to hit character, Kevin, hit Enter again. Sorry, I got stuck in traffic and I wanted a hot dog. There was a vendor. So I'm going to hit Enter again. Going to bring me down to character. And now, as you go through this, you'll learn little shortcuts. You'll learn to just sort of go with it. Final Draft is very good at kind of remembering what it is that you're trying to do. Okay, so sorry I got stuck in traffic. I wanted a hot dog. There was a vendor. I was hungry too, but I was still on time. Okay, so now I'm going to hit Enter again. Kevin responds, I hope the play is good. I know I couldn't sit through it on an empty stomach. Okay. Now, Vanita asks, should we always write in the present tense? That is a very good question. I'm so glad you asked that. In your descriptions, yes. In your descriptions, always write in the present tense. Now, dialogue is a little bit different because if a character is telling us about something that already happened, then obviously like was here, then that's fine. But in your descriptions, always, always, always write in the present tense. I'm going to write that in the notes. Good question. Always write in the present tense. Okay. Now, I want to show the passage of time here. I don't want to actually show them in the theater watching the play because I don't need to, first of all. And second of all, that's not really where I'm going with the joke. So I'm going to hit Enter. Exterior theater later. So now notice that exterior theater day, they go inside. Actually, that's got to be my description here. They walk inside. Exterior theater later. Now this shows that time has elapsed. So exterior theater later, I'm going to hit Enter. Kevin and Alan drag to their car. Kevin yawns. Character, glad I ate. Kevin says, glad I ate beforehand. That sucked. Alan says, I don't think you really appreciated what they were trying to say. And then Kevin says, people don't say thy, and thou anymore. Okay, so we have a little bit of a play here, a screenplay. We've got Alan and Kevin going to see a play. Kevin was late. He doesn't really care to be there. He stopped to get a hot dog. We know that they want the play to be good. We're leaving. The cut to exterior theater later. Kevin and Alan drag to their car. Kevin yawns. We know that Kevin didn't like it. Kevin says, glad I ate beforehand. That sucked. He doesn't really need to say that sucked because it's kind of implied by his behavior, but we'll leave it. I don't think you really appreciated what they were trying to say. People don't say thy and thou anymore. So you get the idea. So let's talk a little bit about some of the various elements we've got at work here and some of the other things we can do sort of playing around with it. If I needed to show that I was going to cut from this scene from the exterior theater day to exterior theater later, if I wanted to show a cut there, I could do what's called a transition. So I'm going to go up here to the last action line of the scene. I'm going to enter. I'm going to hit enter again so that my elements menu comes up. I'm going to go down here to transition. I might then put cut to. Notice the smart type knew what to do. I'm going to hit enter and include that. Might include cut to. It does not need to be there. Here's why. Because it's automatically implied that you're going to cut from this scene to this scene. It's kind of redundant. So I would suggest don't do it unless you absolutely have to. There really isn't a need to do it because this is the change in scenes automatically implies that you're cutting to something. But like if you're going to dissolve to something, let's say, go to transition here. Sorry, transition. Nope, I want a transition. Okay, transition. We'll say dissolve to if I wanted to do that. If I wanted to do match cut to or jump cut to, then that's a little bit more specific. You might do back to. It's up to you, okay? But for the most part, it's implied that you're going to cut from here to here. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to play director when you're a screenwriter. Your job is to write the story. Later on, the director will go in and decide if he or she wants to do a jump cut there or do a cut to there. You only basically put it in if it's unclear from the storyline and it has to be there. Okay. If I wanted to put that, let's say Alan says this sarcastically, I would go up to the character line, hit enter. That brings me down to a separate line before the dialogue. And I'm going to hit enter again. I'm going to do what's called a parenthetical. Put in sarcastically. Okay. Now, the only time you really need to use the parenthetical is if it is unclear what the tone is from the line. Let me write that note down. Only use the parenthetical if it is unclear what the tone is from the line. Okay? Like sarcastically or whatever. Okay. Now, what other elements am I missing here? Let me go down here. Scene heading we talked about, that's the location line. Action line is the description. Character is the character's name. Parenthetical we just talked about. Dialogue is obviously the dialogue. Transition is what we talked about with the cut to, match cut to, etc. And then specific shots, if you want to put in shots, I would highly suggest you don't do that. And the reason for that is because you're not the director. Unless you're actually directing this yourself, then don't do it. In what's known as a spec script, which means that you're writing on speculation, meaning that no studio has employed you to write something, then you don't want to actually put in a shot. That's the director's job, and putting in too many shots kind of turns producers off. Okay. Back up here. All right, a couple of other bells and whistles that Final Draft does. If I go up here to Documents, Format, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, I'm going to highlight Alan and Kevin's two lines here. I'm going to go to Format, and I'm going to type in click Dual Dialogue here, and that makes the dialogue appear side by side. And what this indicates is that the dialogue is to be spoken at the same time by those two actors. Okay, I'm going to undo that. You have other tools here. You have the elements, obviously, that brings up the element menu. You can change the element to, if you want to do it the long way, by going up to the menu here. Got the font. You can change the font if you want to, but here's the thing. The default font for Final Draft is Courier New for a reason, because that's the industry standard. I should not be seeing any screenplays in any other font other than Courier. Okay, size, etc. Don't change any of that. Don't modify it. Don't need to. Alignment, don't really need to play with that in screenplays. Spacing, if you have a spacing issue, you might be able to play around with this. Space before, insert page break if you need to insert a page break. But for the most part, the only thing you would really use here is the dual dialogue. Go to document, you can have headers and footers, mores and continueds. If you move to a next page, it will say more at the bottom or continued if you need to. If you need to turn that off, you can just do that way. The title page, this is very important. I'm going to click on title page, and it brings up the title page. So I'm going to name this the screenplay At the Playhouse, written by my name, based on, now if this were based on my flash fiction piece, I would say based on the flash fiction piece At the Playhouse. Or if this were based on Hamlet, I might say based on William Shakespeare's Hamlet. If this is original, meaning it's not based on any previously written work, I would type an original screenplay. Okay? Now, come down here to the bottom. It says address and phone number. I strongly suggest you only put in your email address and your telephone number. You never know in whose hands the script is going to fall, so you just want your contact information to be your email address and your telephone number. I would not put my personal address on the cover sheet, unless like I knew who it was going to and I trusted them or something. All right. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to undo this, okay? Get out of there. Now, when you X out of the title page, it saves what you put there, okay? It saves what you put there. So when I come up here to File and I want to save, if I go to Save as PDF, the menu comes up. I can save the document as a PDF, and there's a little box here to include the title page as a PDF. If you unclick this, the title page will not appear. Okay? So because there is a title page, there is no need to put the title in the body of the document. So you don't need to start off with the title up here like you would in a Microsoft Word document. Okay? Because there's a separate title page for it in Final Draft, you don't need to have it. Okay? And if you submit your work to me as a Final Draft document, I can go up here and click on title page and I can see if you filled out your title page. So you notice I brought it back up and it's all there. Okay? So it automatically saves once you X out. Okay, back up here to tools. You've got the spelling and thesaurus functions. You can print reports. You can do scene reports, location reports. Those are helpful when you're going into production. There's a names database if you need help determining names and so on and so forth. You might, let's say, like Brendan, look up. Okay, that didn't work. There you go. So you have all these different sort of names and so on and so forth. You can play around with it. Some people work with Collaborwriter, and if you are exchanging Final Draft documents across, if you're on different parts of the country, you can do that. You can schedule sessions. There's a format assistant that will help you if you are having trouble with formatting. Scene numbers you do not need to put in unless it's a production draft. You're not writing production drafts. You're writing spec drafts, so no need for that. Edit scene number if you need to do that. Omit scene if you need to take something out. Revisions mode. If you are, if you are writing something in revisions mode, which you may have to do later in the program, there are different colors to indicate different which draft it is. The first revision is blue, then pink, then yellow, then green, then goldenrod, and so on and so forth. And it's interesting that when the scripts get printed out on set, those actually refer to the page numbers. The draft numbers, and the pages come out in those actual colors. They actually print the scripts, the scenes on those colors. So when you look at a production draft on set for someone who's working like the continuity person, the script will be sort of a rainbow of colors because they're actually printed on that color paper. Okay. mark revised or clear revised if you need to clear the revisions mode if you need to do that. Okay. Moving on to a couple of other things that I've noticed in screenplays. Like I said, no need to put the title in the actual screenplay documents. There's a separate title page for that. When you submit your screenplays to me, you can submit them as final draft documents or PDFs. Now, if you submit it as a final draft document, I notice that there's something wrong with the formatting. What I can actually do is put my cursor where the problem is, and I can determine what element is highlighted. So, for example, if this dialogue were written as an action line, it's going to look funky to me. It's going to look wrong. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Change element to action. Okay, now that's incorrect. Notice the dialogue is centered in the page here. This is not properly formatted dialogue. So how do I fix that? I just go up, I change the element to dialogue, it fixes it. Okay. So if it does not look like this, if your screenplay does not look like this, I'm circling around the document here. If it does not look like this, there is some kind of an element problem. So make sure that you can make your screenplay look like this. Now, on that very first draft that you submit to me, because it is the first time that you are writing in Final Draft in a lot of cases, for a lot of you, I know that there are going to be some hiccups, and I know you're going to need some experimental time. So that's okay. I'm not going to be very punitive when it comes to formatting on the first draft. Now, here's the thing. If the second draft that you submit to me has the same problems, because I'm going to point out what the problems are in your notes. I'm going to say, okay, you've got some improperly formatted dialogue, or your character names are not capitalized the very first time they appear, or your slug lines are not appropriate, so on and so forth. If I tell you those in your notes on the first draft, if you do not correct them for the second draft, then yes, I will hold you accountable for those. Okay. But I have sample scripts on FSO. Obviously, I'm doing this session now. I'm going to try to archive it and send it out so those of you who are not in attendance today can see it and listen to this lesson. So there really are will be no excuse for not seeing this. Furthermore, if I want to raise a point, some of you who are reading the script for Chinatown or will be reading the script for Chinatown very soon. The script for Chinatown, you're more than likely looking at a production draft. Okay, so if you see things like there are some shots and some very excessive description in the description lines, that's because you're probably looking at a production draft. You'll also see lots of things you can download scripts on the internet, and typically the only scripts that are ever actually published or released to the general public are production drafts. So a lot of what we tell you are sort of quote unquote rules about how to format things. You'll see people break them all the time. Now, here's the thing. If your name is Christopher McQuarrie or Joe Monahan, or sorry, gosh, what's his name? I think it's Joe Monahan, I think. Chris Monahan? I don't know. The guy who wrote The Departed. If your name is Tony Kushner or Robert Town, you get to break the rules a lot of the times. You can have some formatting issues, and you can play around and experiment with formatting a little bit, because they have won Oscars and they've written big budget movies that have won major awards or have done very well at the box office. They can get away with it. But for those of us who haven't hit it big yet or have not established themselves as names in the industry as writers, we don't get to break the rules. We have to play by the quote unquote rules. Just know that the rules are always changing. So I'm going to write that down. That's a very important thing for you to know here, especially this early in the program. Rules about screenwriting are always changing. You're always going to have your default rules, like of what dialogue looks like and what descriptions look like, and that type of formatting. Like the typical final draft document's never going to change, but the rules about certain things are always changing. For example, text messaging is a new thing in screenplays. That's still kind of feeling its way out about how it's going to appear on the screen, if there's a standard for that yet. so on and so forth. So rules in screenwriting are always changing. Okay, one more big thing with the rules, be open to it because things are always changing. Certain producers like things certain ways. And if you go to write for TV, you'll find that different networks have different templates that they use. So it can get really confusing at times. You just got to be open to it and you just got to kind of go with it. Do your research to the best of your ability about the producers you're writing for or the network you're writing for and play by those rules. Okay. The last big thing, formatting thing I forgot to mention is that if a character is on the phone, here's what you do. Let's say that Kevin's phone rings. Kevin's phone rings. Okay. Now, if this is a sound effect, the sound effect gets capitalized. Kevin's phone rings. I'm going to type that here. Sound effects get capitalized. I've seen in very recent years, months actually, it's kind of a move to get away from that in spec screenplays. But for now, because the books that you're going to be reading say to capitalize them, we'll say capitalize them. So Kevin's phone rings, the sound effect. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. He's going to answer. So we don't need to say he answers, but we can say, bring up my character, what his line of dialogue is. Hello. Okay. Interior, Kevin's mother's house, kitchen, day. Or you can flip that and say kitchen, Kevin's mother's house, day, if you want to do it that way also. Hit enter. Kevin's mother sits at her table. Kevin's mother, did you feed the dog? Okay, now here's the thing. I've established the first location here because Kevin's phone rings in this location, exterior theater day. If we're going to cut between the two characters on the phone, only if we're going to cut between the two characters on the phone. If we're only going to see Kevin's side of the conversation, then we don't need to do this. But if we're going to cut between the two characters on the phone, and we're going to approach it from that omniscient perspective, you would establish the first location here, hello. Second location, interior Kevin's mother's house, kitchen, day. Kevin's mother sits at her table, intercut, telephone, conversation. And this tells the reader, the potential producer or director, that you're going to be cutting back, that they're going to be cutting back and forth between these two scenes. So you don't need to do it a new location every time every line is said. Okay, so this implies that the conversation is going to be back and forth. So then Kevin would actually appear in this scene because we know that he's actually in the other location. It's just that his lines are going to appear in the scene. So Kevin would say, "Yes, Mom." Okay. So that's only if you're going back and forth between the two scenes. You're intercutting the conversation. And then the director and the editor decide where they're actually going to cut. Okay? All right. Are there any questions on formatting? If you have any questions on formatting or any other questions, feel free to type in the chat window. Anything having to do with final draft or anything coming up. And I want to talk a little bit, if you have any questions, feel free to type them. I'm going to talk a little bit about story. I want to emphasize that you should be thinking about your thesis ideas at this point. And that is essentially what you plan to write in this program across the duration of the program. You should sort of be brainstorming what that is now. If you know you want to write for games, or if you know you want to write for TV, that is absolutely fine. You can pitch three ideas for games, or 3 ideas for graphic novels or screenplays, whatever you want to do. You don't have to do 3 of everything. You don't have to do 1 of each. If you want to pitch three game ideas, then by all means go for it. It's pretty clear on the lesson about thesis ideas what exactly I'm looking for. Basically format it exactly as the sample that I did for Hamlet. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I want to be able to follow your story. Don't spend too much time on backstory. That's a big mistake that a lot of writers make when they're pitching ideas. They have all this backstory and they think that that's actually the story. No. The story begins where on page one, I need to know what's going to be happening on page one. I don't need all the background. If you have to pitch me a whole bunch of background, um, you're not focusing on the story, and the story needs to be clarified. Okay, so the big thing is I need to know what your protagonist's super objective is. That goes for all media, graphic novel, game, etc. I need to know what their goal is. The only situation where that might be a little vague is if you're doing an episodic television show. That's something like NCIS or Law and Order, where each episode has a different story and they don't connect. Only if you're doing an episodic, but still you have to pitch me what the super objective is for the pilot episode so that I know exactly what that character's goal is. So super objectives are going to be very clear, very important. If you have not watched that super objectives video, you must watch it. It's extremely, extremely important. Review it if need be, and I may even tell you to review it if I read your thesis idea and I can't figure out what the super objectives are. So I'm going to give you my honest feedback on them. And if I see that you've written something that you think should be a screenplay, but I think it would actually work better as a game, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what your best idea is. And now that's, of course, my interpretation of what your best idea is. You can absolutely write whatever you want in the program, but I'll sort of guide you in where I think you should be going. There are a few overused story ideas, and not necessarily, I would say premises, a few overused premises, like the haunted house, like the pastor who has an affair with a parishioner. Zombies are certainly overused. Vampires are certainly overused. So those are sort of, you can certainly write them, but they're an uphill battle, and you've got to really have something fresh. The fresher, the better. The fresher the story idea, the better. So play around with it. You're not married to any of the thesis ideas that you pitch here. You really start to finalize them in months 2 and 3 is where you really have to start to say, okay, this is the one I'm going to write. So, just certainly you're just brainstorming right now. Okay, let's look at some of the questions that I've just gotten here. Carlos asks, I would like to know how to write voiceovers. Good question. Let's say if Alan, here's the deal. First of all, if you're going to write a voiceover, there needs to be a reason to have the voiceover. Do not, I repeat, do not write a voiceover to give backstory. Don't do it. If you do that, the voiceover has got to be the most brilliantly written voiceover ever. Like, witty and amazingly funny. Now, for example, the movie About Time that came out, I want to say in the fall, last fall, the movie About Time has a brilliant voiceover. It does give backstory, but it's so funny. Like, there are jokes and everything. So if you're going to use voiceover, there's got to be a good reason. Don't you dare use it for backstory. If you do use it for backstory, it's going to have to be really, really unique. Okay. So if I'm going to have a voiceover character, or a character use a voiceover, I'm going to go up to the character line here, in parentheses, and all I did was hit Shift and then the open parentheses, and the Smart Type menu came up here. I'm just going to hit VO for voiceover, and voila, you have voiceover. To show you what the other abbreviations here mean, OS means off screen. That is when a character is not in the scene, yet we still hear that character's voice. OC for off camera, the character is not on camera. Continued and subtitled if the line is obviously using subtitles. Okay, good question. Michelle asks, may I have a copy of the script example here in your notes to us, please? Try taking notes, but couldn't you keep up? Good question. I'm going to email this to you. I'm going to email you this screenplay, and I'm going to email you the document with the notes. Gio asks, is there a book you recommend for hints and use of Final Draft? Yes, you're getting it next month. The book is, I think we're using the Screenwriter's Bible, is the new one that we're using. We used to use the Hollywood Standard, but we've kind of agreed that it's not as helpful as the Hollywood as the Screenwriter's Bible. I believe you're getting that next month. It's a formatting book, so it's going to answer more questions about voiceover and so on and so forth. Final Draft is going to just take some time of just sitting there and playing with it, honestly. It's really simple to use. It's very easy. It's got built-in formatting. So you're really just going to have to play with it. That's the big thing. If you have questions about something on Final Draft, all you have to do is go into Google, type in, how do I format dialogue in Final Draft, and look to see if there are answers. So Google what you don't know, honestly. Because I get questions from students all the time, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And if I don't know the answer, guess what I do? I Google it. So I Google it and I say, this is what I found on Google. Hint, hint, you should have Googled it. So yeah, Google's your friend with that stuff. There are some things that Final Draft does that I don't completely know, and I Google it. So, someone somewhere has the answer. They do have a helpline, I think. And I think that like the first time you do it is free or something like that if you call their helpline or something. I've never done it, but people have told me that there is a helpline you can call. Okay, good. Any other questions? Other things, you should have now access to 2 video games, Knights of the Old Republic and Gone Home, which I need you to start playing one of them, at least one of them, now in this class. And you have basically 6 months until month 7, which is the games class, to complete both of them. And now both games are very well respected in the industry. Knights of the Old Republic is a classic. Every time I talk about it, to other gamers, their faces light up. They say it's their favorite game of all time. It is a classic game. The shorter one is Gone Home. So if you're not an avid gamer, you might want to start with that one. And you should have checked things out from the library at this point. And you should have McGraw-Hill Connect, and most of you have started going through that, because I noticed that at least the last time I checked, which was 2 days ago, 14 out of the 18 of you have set up accounts. So I know it's kind of like grammar purgatory, but it's actually very, very helpful. And you'll have that for the duration of your time here at Full Sail. So if you later on down the line, one of your instructors says you really have a problem with capitalization, you can go back to the personalized learning plan and review that section. Okay. I hope that this was very helpful. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to help. Just so you know, some of you did message me on FSO3 today. For some reason, after 2 o'clock, I could not get into FSO3, and I've been trying. I've been trying to go in and look at your messages, but I can't do it right now for some reason. It's getting a little late. I'm getting a little tired, so I'm going to actually wait until tomorrow to respond to your messages when I'm in the office. I'm going to be in the office tomorrow, so I'm going to sort of wait till tomorrow to respond to your messages. So if I don't respond immediately tonight, that's why. I just don't feel like calling FSO support tonight, and I can answer those tomorrow when I'm actually on campus, and I can actually call from there. Okay, so I know that you guys have a lot on your plates right now because I'm throwing a lot of information at you, and month 1 is really about absorbing as much information as possible. The following months are going to build on the basics that you've really explored here. I encourage you to continue to revise your flash fiction piece even after this next set of notes that I'm going to give you. I encourage you to exchange with each other. I absolutely encourage you to submit them for publication. Last month, I only had 11 students, and about a quarter of them we're not even 2 weeks out of that class, have had their stuff published already, or at least it is lined up to be published. You can submit to the Aviator, which is Full Sail's magazine, and you can submit to any of the publications that I have in my list. There have been a lot of success stories with that, and it is a great writing credit to put on your resume. And it's absolutely something that you want to play up with your career development counselor later on in the program. Congratulations to Jill For her flash fiction piece was just published in Linguistic Erosion. She just let me know. And so, congratulations, Jill. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to share that with my peers in the department. That's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. So yeah, absolutely. Submit to Linguistic Erosion. Submit to. I just had one recently published. I can't think of where it was. Oh my gosh. It'll come to me. But there are lots and lots of options, and certainly submit them. And I like to write flash fiction pieces in between larger projects. I just finished a novel actually, and it's out to my beta readers right now. And I'm about to start revising another novel that an agent has requested. So because I'm in this interim place, I wanted to knock out a couple short things. So I just finished up a short play, 10-minute play, and use that time in between larger projects to pump out these shorter things, because you submit them for publication, they get published in magazines like the New Yorker, or if you can get in the New Yorker, that's an amazing thing. But like some things like Linguistic Erosion or Story Shack, that's the one I was published in. Story Shack, these are publication credits you can put on your resume. It makes you a more bankable writer. Okay. So you want to absolutely try to knock out, just get a moment's inspiration. They don't take long to write. So do it by all means, absolutely, and please submit your stuff, and then please let me know when you've actually gotten something published. Story Shack is closed until the end of May, Jill says, but we can try June 1st. Absolutely, by all means. Story Shack actually illustrates also. My flash fiction piece had a fantastic illustration that literally looked like a screen capture from the film version of that flash fiction piece, because I filmed the flash fiction piece. Okay. Vanita asks, I was unable to post my flash fiction to the writer's room discussion board yesterday. Should we try somewhere else? You should be able to post to it. I don't know what the problem is. If there's see, I don't see what you guys see on my end of FSO3. So I'm going to have to just say call FSO support for that. I know that's just sort of my blanket response, but I really have no answer, because FSO3 is brand new this month, and I don't see what you guys see on your interface. I only see the instructor side. Back on last month, and for the entire time I've been at Full Sail, FSO 2.8, we used to actually be able to go in and see what you guys see on your end, but FSO 3 does not give us that capability, unfortunately. So I can't see what your process is in terms of testing things out. So I would suggest that if you need to post it to the writer's room discussion board, then contact FSO support and they'll help you with that. As of right now, I do not have a discussion board for screenplays, because for the short screenplays, because FSO 2.8 did not allow us to do that. And so I'm just now getting used to how we can do this extra amazing feature that the new FSO has, which is that we can upload documents and we can upload final draft documents to discussion boards. So I'm looking at doing that in the future. I just haven't done it just yet, because I've been so busy trying to get used to this new system, and we've had meetings up the wazoo about different things affecting the program, and book changes and FSO3 training to go to, and I still don't completely 100% understand everything about FSO3. So as you're learning, I'm learning. Plus, I had to move everything from the old platform over, and I had to literally cut and paste every lesson from the old platform to the new platform, literally lesson by lesson. And even in some cases, I had to re-record some of the keynotes. So it was very time consuming. So I'm just now getting used to the bells and whistles, but in the future, I will have that capability in this class. In the future, in other classes for you guys, you are going to be able to post final draft documents to discussion boards. So certainly, that will be something you'll be doing. You'll be able to exchange work with each other more frequently. Also, in the past, some of our very successful classes that have graduated and gone through Full Sail have set up online discussions, and they hold go-to meetings among themselves. So if you want to do like a Google Hangouts thing, or if you want to do like a Facebook chat thing amongst all of you, you're welcome to do that. I encourage it. network amongst yourselves as much as you can. You've got a great support system here. You're all learning and you're all going through this program together, and you all have very similar ambitions. So I strongly suggest you try to network here as much as possible. Form those writing groups, even if you're on opposite sides of the world. I've had a student in the Philippines and a student in Colombia become writing partners, and you can collaborate. There are ways to do it. We live in a wonderful time where you can collaborate, on different sides of the country or different sides of the world. So certainly you can make the writing group work for you. I have a writing group that meets in person, so that's very convenient for me. It's actually not terribly convenient because we live on opposite sides of the city, which is in Orlando's a huge, sprawling city, so it actually sometimes takes an hour to get to my writing group meeting. But in a lot of cases, we do exchange things, on Facebook. So develop your support systems here. This is really a place to network. That's part of what you're paying for. So really take advantage of that. The sooner you can get to your career development counselor, the better. You might want to introduce yourself to him or her. And the more publication credits you can talk up to your career development counselor, the better they can market you as a writer and help you market yourself as a writer. All right, good. If there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to save this document. I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to do it right here live in person so you can see where I'm doing it, just in case if I say I completely forgot what I named it. So saving it to my desktop, AVS sample script. What's today? Today is 5/19. Okay. And I'm going to save my notes to my desktop also. AVS Online Notes. Okay, so I'm going to forward these to you via email. And like I said, if you messaged me on FSO3, I will get to that tomorrow morning. And if you're having any other issues with FSO, just contact FSO support. And I wish I could be of better help with answering questions about it, but in a lot of cases, I just don't know. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your evening to participate in this, and I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions about formatting, please do not hesitate to contact me. I'd rather you ask than have to go through the rigmarole of showing you after the fact. So if you have any questions about formatting or any questions about screenwriting, I am your resource. That's what you're paying me for. So by all means, ask. I'm happy to help you. That is what I do, and I love doing it. So have a great evening, everyone, and I will talk to you next time.